1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
For most Australians, wages haven't gone up in years.
50.
And borrowing to spend has become a way of life for many citizens and the government. But the Treasury says its new budget will soon bridge the gap between its expenses and income.
A stronger economy, more jobs, guaranteeing essential services, the government living within its means. That is what this budget is about.
And it plans to strike that balance while letting workers keep more money in their pockets. A $3 billion income tax break is the centerpiece of what could be the government's last budget before it calls for elections. Critics say an extra $10 a week won't make a big difference to wage earners and that the money would have been better spent elsewhere.
Dear Scott Morrison, please keep my $10 and put it toward bringing those languishing on manus here.
But the government's confident it can still raise more money from taxes because it's getting tough on multinational corporations that it believes avoid taxes. It's introducing more regulations to crack down on the informal economy, and it's outlawed cash transactions worth more than $7,400 so deals can be tracked and taxed through banks. Creating jobs and driving the economy is a key concern for voters. The government's drawn up a $3 billion roadmap to build infrastructure, but most of these projects won't start until 2020, long after Australians head to the polls. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
Saul Eslake is an independent economist in Canberra. He says the budget forecasts a return to surpluses a year earlier than the government's previous estimate.
Well, this budget forecasts a return to surplus in the 2019-20 financial year. That's a year earlier than the government had forecast in last year's budget, and they're expecting these surpluses to build to more than 1% of GDP by the 21-22 financial years. Consequence of that is that the government now expects its net debt to peak in the current financial year at 18.4% of GDP and to decline to less than 4% of GDP by 2027-28. And this is a much brighter picture than the government had painted in last year's budget and is in stark contrast to the picture which it was painting when it first came to office after the election Australia held in 2013. Now, this isn't all as a result of tough decisions to raise revenue or to cut spending. This year's budget in particular has been made much easier by windfall revenue gains as a result of stronger than expected growth in employment, stronger than expected corporate profits, including as a result of higher prices for some of Australia's key commodity exports such as iron ore and coal, and a generally stronger position by leading Australian companies paying a higher proportion of their income in tax than had been assumed at budget time. The government has, like governments in other countries, been working over the last 2 or 3 years to attempt to crack down on some of the ways in which multinational companies shift revenue out of Australia to low tax jurisdictions such as Ireland or Netherlands and the Luxembourg and other well-known tax havens. That has required them to introduce new legislation, provide additional resources to the tax office and cooperate with other countries. That does seem to be producing some revenue gains, but there's clearly more work to be done. And there's other things the government has done in this budget to, for example, address the way in which multinationals make loans at relatively high interest rates to their Australian-based subsidiaries as a way of transferring revenue and profit that might otherwise be taxed in Australia to low-tax jurisdictions. And, of course, all of this is helping to put the budget in a stronger position and provide some of the basis for the government to offer tax cuts to ordinary Australians.